G'day guys, welcome to my RX Plus feature video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about NRL Round 10 recap preview for 2021 guys. Let's get started. So starting off with this first match of this game, we see the West Tigers going up against the Knights now. In this match, absolutely very difficult for the Knights. They are really struggling so bad, and without Callum Ponga, that was the last interchange, which is Tex Way coming into that fullback squad. They weren't really cooperative and they weren't really on the move. They just didn't really lack consistency, and they just had poor defense and poor attacking. And I just didn't think in this game that it was really intentional, but the West Tigers were really good in that first half and second half, and they were really excellent, and they were putting the hard yards in there and smashing the Newcastle Knights in that game. But I just didn't think in this game that the West Tigers were going to win in that match, but I did tip the West Knights but in that team. So for the West Tigers though, they were really aiming up really hard in that game, and I just didn't think in this match that the West Tigers were going to win. Let's have a look at the Newcastle Knights tries. So what we have here is Hymel Hunt, Brady Jones, Jaden Brayley and Tyson Frizzell. I was scoring 4 tries, but basically missed the goals in that game, so basically that was 3 tries anyway, but it was 36 points to 18 for that score anyway. But let's have a look at the West Tigers tries. So what we have here is Luke Brooks, James Tarmel, David Norfoluma, Adam Dewey that scored 2 tries, and Tommy Talau. And my player of the game went to number 6 or number 7. I think it was number 7. Number 6 from the West Tigers. I think it was number 6 or number 7, but yeah, it was Adam Dewey. I think he had a really good game, really stood hard in that match. Scoring 2 tries in that game really sealed the deal for the West Tigers, and credit to the West Tigers for making a really good win against the Newcastle Knights anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Sea Eagles going up against the Broncos. Now, this game was absolutely atrocious by the Broncos, and they just didn't really get a win, unfortunately, but they only led to 1 try by Jermaine Asako. They scored a try in that game for the Broncos, and the rest of the players, they just really are terrible, and they're just not a very good team, and they're just not really a good enough team to really get onto that competition. And I just don't think the Broncos will get onto this competition of the season if they just keep saying that they're gonna win but they're gonna lose. They keep getting thrashed, and that's why the players are getting dropped all the time, because they're not playing as good performance as they usually do. And that's why I have to tell you that Anthony Milford, number 6 from the Brisbane Broncos, is going to get axed in the next week, leading up to the next game. Since Albert Kelly will be replacing him, I reckon he'll do well into that game anyway. But that's not until the predictions are out anyway, so we have to talk about that in the next video. So let's talk about this one anyway. For the Manly Sea Eagles, they are a really good team. Last couple of weeks they've been shocking, but then they led to a really good standard. Credit to the Manly Sea Eagles, they are a really professional team. I just have to say they are a really good team, and they are, because 50 points to 6, that's how you want to play football, and that's usually what you usually do. So let's have a look at the Broncos tries, but the only try that basically scored in that game, as I mentioned before, was Jermaine Asako. But let's have a look at the Manly Sea Eagles tries. What we have here is Tom Trbojevic that scored 3 tries, Sean Kepi, Jason Saab that scored 2 tries, Jake Trbojevic, Lachlan Croker and Josh Schuster. And my player of the game, obviously, that scored 3 tries in that game for Manly Sea Eagles, Tom Trbojevic. The next game of that match, we see the Bulldogs going up against the Raiders. Now, in this game, what I can say about it is the Bulldogs, in the first half, they were really inconsistent. The Raiders were really on top of their form, and how the way that played in the second half, the Bulldogs were absolutely really good in that game. But they weren't good enough to really put points on the Raiders, and the Raiders would just keep on firing as they usually do, because at the moment though they have lost a lot of players, such as Chance Nickel-Klogstad, George Williams, but he is back last week, but he hasn't really played. I haven't really seen him play that much in that game. You got like Josh Hodgson, but he is back also too. But then you've got like a lot of other players too. But in that game was really appalling by the Raiders. But unfortunately though, the Bulldogs didn't really get a good enough win, but only just lost by 2 points in that game, which led to 20 points to 18 in that game for that scoreline. But let's have a look at the Raiders' tries anyway. So what we have here is Corey Hauranara, Curtis Scott, and Sebastian Chris. Let's have a look at the Bulldogs' tries. So what we have here is Nick Kotrick, Nick Meaney, and Dallin Watene-Selesniak. And my player of the game went to number 4 from the Raiders, Curtis Scott. I think he had a wonderful game. Really stood hard in that match. I was going to pick like another someone else, but really in that game, I just didn't think that in that match that really got into that form. But in that game, was just absolutely really good in that match though. But in my predicament, the Raiders really did really well, but last week they were atrocious. But that game for the Magic round was absolutely like really good, but they played a little bit better leading up to the Bulldogs that were going to win, but unfortunately they didn't anyway. So yeah, well done from the Raiders for making a really good win, 20 points to 18 in that match. The next game of that match, we see the Sharks going up against the Rabbitohs. Now in this match, like the Sharks really did really well, scoring a number of points in this game. In the second half, they were absolutely really good in that match. But in this game, really, like the Sharks didn't really do really well in the first half, but in the second half they were scoring a lot of tries, and like really they were really consistent. The Rabbitohs, they were really good since last week. When they first against the Storm, they were really appalling. They lost 50 points to 0. And they didn't have Adam Reynolds in that squad, but luckily for that, Adam Reynolds was in that team. So next week, since Latrell Mitchell is going to come into that squad, hopefully, I reckon the Rabbitohs will be a very good team to really aim up their form into their team. But the Rabbitohs, though, as I said, they are a very good team. They really execute very well in that match and really scored a lot of points in that game. But it was 32 points to 22 in that match for that scoreline, and I didn't think in this game the Rabbitohs were going to win. But since the Sharks aren't doing too well, they are struggling so much with a lot of injuries going into that squad of a team. But in that match by the Sharks, they were playing a really good game, but not really good enough, in my opinion. But let's have a look at the Sharks tries anyway. So what we have here is Will Kennedy, Aaron Woods, Britton Okora, and Mawini Heroti. Let's have a look at the Rabbitohs tries. What we have here is Keon Kalamatangi, Alex Johnston, Cody Walker that scored 2 tries, and Jai Arrow. And my player of the game also too went to number 1 from the South Sydney Rabbitohs, Cody Walker. The next game of that match, we see the Roosters going up against the Cowboys. Now in that match, the Cowboys, they weren't really going good in the first half, but then in the second half they were absolutely coming out firing, with Scott Drinkwater playing a really good game. And usually the Cowboys don't do really well, but then a couple of times in the couple of rounds they usually do really well. And I don't really think that the Cowboys aren't really good enough of a team, but I know that they are struggling with Michael Morgan retiring from a medical complaint, obviously like an injury. He has to retire immediately. But then you got Kyle Felt, which he is a really good winger. Then you got Scott Drinkwater, as I just mentioned. Then you got Valentine Holmes, which he isn't really that good. But then Hembeso Tibuai Fidau. But yeah, the list goes on and on. But then for the Roosters, though, they are without a doubt, they are a really good team. But sometimes though, the other half says they are really terrible of a team because they've got a lot of injuries. And I understand that they've got a lot of injuries. But then, like, obviously, to fulfill any type of game, they are a really good team. And I'm not just going to benefit that. I'm going to benefit out of the way that they are a really good team. But it was definitely 30 points to 16 for that scoreline. Really average scoreline in that game. But yeah, really good by that team. But then for the Cowboys, though, in that match, really executed in that game. But let's have a look at the Roosters tries. What we have here is Daniel Tupou that scored 2 tries, Sam Walker, Matt Ikuvalu, and Angus Crichton that scored 2 tries in that game. But unfortunately, though, I do apologise. I didn't really write that down on that piece of paper that I have for the Cowboys tries. So I do apologise if anyone really bad reacts to that. But my player of the game, I think, went to number 11 or number 12 from the Sydney Roosters. Angus Crichton that scored 2 tries in that game, and I think he played really well in that match anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Warriors going up against the Parramatta Eels. My Parramatta Eels did really well in that match. Like, obviously, like, the Warriors were absolutely shocking across the park, and they didn't really execute very well. And for my opinion, 34 points to 18, I wasn't expecting this scoreline to happen at all. And usually the Eels don't do very well, but they do very well since Jacob Arthur has been replaced by Dylan Brown, which he is on suspension with that high shot to, or obviously that dangerous tackle to Drew Hutchison, which that means he had suspected punctured lung and broken rib. I think broken rib or fractured rib. I'm not too sure about that. But anyway, yeah, since Dylan Brown was out, congratulations to Jacob Arthur for making his debut from the Parramatta Eels. He did really well, obviously scoring 1 try in that game and really impressed his dad, obviously in the coaching squad of that team. But I just didn't think that in this game that Jacob Arthur was going to be like the sibling of Brad Arthur that really was going to be into that squad. And I wasn't expecting that at all. But in that game, the Parramatta Eels did really well in that match, and I just didn't think that this scoreline was going to be higher up in that game. But for the Warriors, since they are struggling a little bit, they are a really good team, and basically benefit of that, like, since I wasn't expecting that scoreline, they weren't really equalising in that game. But yeah, let's have a look at the Warriors tries. What we have here is Josh Curran, Ben Murdoch-Masila, and Reece Walsh. Let's have a look at the Eels tries. What we have here is Nathan Brown, Mike Osivo, Regan Campbell-Gillard that scored 2 tries, Ryan Madison, and Jacob Arthur, as I mentioned. My player of the game went to number 8 from the Parramatta Eels in that match, Regan Campbell-Gillard that scored 2 tries in that game. The next game of that match, we see the Storm going up against the Dragons. Now, in this match, like the Dragons, they were really good enough of a team, and I wasn't expecting this scoreline to happen. 44 points to 18, if that is right, I believe. Yes, it is. 44 points to 18 for that scoreline in that match. Excuse me. But the Dragons, though, they were really on top of their form. I think first half and second half. But still, not a lot of ball happened to the Dragons. I know for a fact that Ryan Pappenhausen was injured. I think he was injured, but then obviously he didn't play the rest of the game. Plus also too, Matt Duffy was injured too. I'm not too sure if it was first half or second half that he got injured in that game. But in that match, really good performance by the Storm. They are a really solid team, and every single time I see this player score, he's an absolute speed freak. Josh Odokai, he's an absolute speed freak, and every single time I see this guy play, he's an absolute machine and just doesn't stop, and he just continues to score anytime, anywhere. But yeah, let's have a look at the Dragons tries. So what we have here is Mikhaili Rabbitohs that scored 3 tries in that game, and Cody Ramsey. Obviously, Corey Norman scored, basically missed, I think 3 goals to obviously make that scoreline a little bit confusing for the others. But let's have a look at the Storm tries. What we have here is Josh Adokar that scored 3 tries, Kenneth Bromwich, Dean Lemira, Nelson Osaf Solomona, Jerome Hughes, and Justin Olam and George Jennings. And my player of the game went to number 5 from the Storm. As I mentioned, 3 tries he scored and 6 tries from last week's performance against the Rabbitohs. Josh Adokar, I think he had a wonderful game in that match and really scoring 3 tries in that game. With Nico Hines, did a wonderful ball to other players that make Josh Adokar score that try, like any 3 tries. But I just think, like, yeah, well done from the Melbourne Storm for making a really good game against the Dragons, for making a really good win for the Melbourne Storm anyway. The next game of that match, we see the Titans going up against the Panthers. Now, finally in this game, this match is going to be, was really like poor performance by the Titans, and like the Titans didn't really do really well. Fortunately, I feel so sorry for the Titans because usually they put on a lot of performance and really top performance, but unfortunately though, they were really shocking across the park, and going up against this good solid Panthers team like the Melbourne Storm team, I just think in that game was absolutely really solid by the Panthers. And usually, like every single time I see this guy, number 7, Nathan Cleary, kick, he does not miss at all, and really he's an absolute superstar. And I just think by him, I really do think, I reckon he should wear a Daily M medal or something like that, any type of medal, because he deserves it, because he's a wonderful player and he just is a solid player that's basically doesn't miss any goals and basically scores tries, and obviously helps out the Panthers in that team. But it was 48 points to 12 for that scoreline in that match anyway. But yeah, well done from the Panthers for making a really good win in that game. So let's have a look at the Titans tries. What we have is both Let's have a look at the Titans tries. What we have here is Bo Firma and AJ Brimson. Let's have a look at the Panthers tries. What we have here is Nathan Cleary that scored 3 tries, James Fisher-Harris, Moses Leota, Charlie Staines that scored 2 tries, and Liam Martin. And my player of the game, as I mentioned before, number 7 from the Penrith Panthers, Nathan Cleary. I think he had a wonderful game, scoring 3 tries, didn't miss any goals. He's an absolute solid player that really stands out for the Panthers and just really executes for that team in that match. But yeah, well done from the Panthers for making a really good win. 48 points to 12 for that scoreline against the Titans anyway. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Stay tuned for more. I'll be doing a couple of videos coming to you guys soon. Also, I'll be doing more videos coming to you guys soon, so stay tuned for more. Plus, leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and for this video. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Till then, take care, guys. Stay safe and have a good one. Plus, let's go up to 300 subscribers. We're sitting on 210 anyway, so let's go up to that. And I'll see you guys next time. And also, thanks, guys, for making me 2 subscribers up. So yeah, I adore you guys, I respect you guys, but let's get up to 300 subscribers, guys. We definitely need that support for me and for my channel anyway. So yeah, take care.